Hello, good morning, happy Saturday. Welcome to Stamp and Create with Beth. I'm Beth Roy, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. And let's just make sure I'm in the right place. Say good morning if you pop in. Okay. I'm a little crooked, but that's going to be okay. I wanted to make sure my phone was high enough so that I could do the technique that we're going to do today. Good morning, Joan. So today I want to show you this cool technique I learned, I don't know how long ago, quite a while ago. I've been doing this for a while, but I don't think I've shown it for a while. It is called partial die cutting. And basically I merge two die cuts so that I have one layer. So this one I made, and wedding season is upon us, and I thought this would be a beautiful wedding card. So it's just plain on the inside. You could add a pocket if you're doing a gift card or a cash or even a check. So I know some people still write checks. And you could do a little pocket with this paper. I had a little piece left over. It's not going the right direction, but you could do a pocket like that. So really fun, right? The other thing is this one I made just a Z-fold card, and I used, this was that boho vibes, and this is the timeless plaid. And this one I merged my little rabbit on to a stitch square. So there's lots of possibilities with this technique, and I just like creating these types of layers. Good morning, Linda. Oh, it's gloomy where you are. Yeah, we had, yesterday was really muggy. We had some rain. I feel like we've had storms every 3 days. And it's going to be beautiful. It's already 72 here. It's already in the 70s. It's probably going to be really muggy thanks to those storms that moved through. And I think we're supposed to get a little bit more rain today. So yeah, sorry it's gloomy there. Perfect day to craft though, right? Perfect day to get in your craft room, try out this technique. Now I will say, this technique is for crafters who own a cut and emboss machine and are buying dies. So I don't want to say it's advanced, but it is a little. But I think even if you're a beginner and you're ready to jump in and try this, it is a very doable technique. You can make it complicated, but I'm going to show you how to hopefully not do that. I have gotten myself into spots where I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And you'll see what I mean when we start. Good morning, Maggie. Thanks for joining me, everybody. Oh, Linda. Rain or snow on the weekends. Oh, well, let's pray for sunshine, right? Thank you, Joan. So, I hadn't used this stamp set, really. I've kind of been neglecting it. I bought it, I was all excited, and then I haven't done anything with it. So I thought it would be cute to do a little scene. And I just wanted a simple background. So I used, I don't use these patterns a lot. I like the other side of the plaids. And so I thought, but this was subtle enough that it gave some color for the background, but it really still let my layer shine. I'm going to show you a little tip too, because sometimes, you know, we do things and then we're like, oh man, how do I fix that, right? Good morning, Christy. So I want to tell you a little something. When you do a Z fold, and I put this on dimensionals, okay, I don't know if you can see that. And I thought, okay, I want it to be halfway, right? Well, it's not really halfway, but look what I did. So you don't want your adhesive to hang out over here. Yeah, I had a little boo-boo there, and it was already stuck down. So what do I do? So let me tell you something that I have learned recently about de-sticking, or taking the stickiness away. If you have an embossing buddy, okay, this powder, this anti-stick powder, you just rub it. I just rubbed it over the exposed dimensionals, and all the stickiness is gone. So now my card will still open and not stick together. So there's your little tip for the day, for if you pull a me and you accidentally don't think about the fact that your square, you're not dividing this in half because you have a little, you know, little guy hanging off over here. Thank you, Linda. So my question is, what do you guys want to merge today? So I've given you 2 examples. I do have my cut and emboss machine nearby. I am going to do this on camera, and that's why my camera is up a little bit higher today. We'll see. I've got it as high as it will go, so hopefully everything will fit under it. So for this card over here, I used the Gallery Blooms, and I used this beautiful motif. So this is in a Sweet Together. You know, right now we're having a sweet sale. So if you don't want whole sweets, you could buy this stamp set or this bundle, and get one of them half off. Whichever one is lesser in value is what you're getting half off. So if you buy a bunch of bundles together that are part of sweets, and this is how I've done my orders. I did all my bundles on one order, and the lowest priced bundles will get half off. So that's a great way to save if you're wanting to buy a few things. Designer Series papers that are part of sweets are also buy one, get one half off until the end of June. And so then I did an order of just Designer Series paper, so that my lesser item was a Designer Series paper pack. So the sale, when you put a bunch of things in your cart, whatever items qualify for the sale, the least amount. So if you're buying a $50 item and a $9 item, the $9 item gets the half off. So I hope that makes sense. So that's why I didn't pair all my papers in with my bundles, because I wanted to save more money by getting my bundle 50% off. So if you have any questions and you're taking advantage of that sale, let me know and I will help you. This bundle, I think this was also a sweet. So, there are some that aren't. There are many bundles that aren't. So, you can click on, when you're shopping, you can go to the product suites, and that's everything that's on sale. So there's ribbon, there's embellishments, there's paper, there's embossing folders, anything that's in stock. So if you don't want a whole suite, you can divide up your orders. Okay, so there's that. On this one, I used Storybook Friends, and I actually used the hello from this beautiful motifs. I love the greetings in that set. And then, so you need the coordinating dies. Okay, so I used my flower die. I have my character dies over here. And then this one, I used the Nested Essentials. I used this fun oblong hexagon, right? No. Yes. Man, had to think about that shape for a second. It has 6 sides. This one, I used the Stylish Shapes, and I used the largest square. So you could use smaller. You could use a circle. You can use whatever you have. You could even use something like this. It might be a little more difficult to do. Like I said, you can get complicated on this, so you want to try to keep it pretty simple. But I just paired it with a square. Again, you could do a smaller one if you wanted. a layer over to cover it. Oh, you mean here? Yes, you could. You could, if you wanted to die cut a, you could die cut a square or cut a square that matched and adhere it here. But, you know, if you don't want to use the extra paper, and honestly, you know, maybe it would be really noticeable, maybe not. I'm not going to worry about it. Because the card does stand up like that. So I'm not too bothered by it. And if you're doing this, you're probably not going to notice that. Maybe when you read your message, I don't know. So if it bothers you, you could do what Joan suggested and put a square over it. But I'm going to leave it as is. So what do we want to try? We can change this shape because I think this rounded rectangle would work well with one of these flowers too, especially this one. I love this flower too. So this could go like this, okay? And then you're just combining your layers. So the idea is that your combined die cut layers become one piece. So if you don't, I forgot my stamp case was broke. If you don't want this to have an edge over here, this is why you merge them. So this is a fun technique. And like I said, maybe a little tiny bit advanced. Oh, true. You could do a scalloped edge. That would be a good idea. So Maggie's suggestion was a scalloped edge, and you could actually maybe run it the full length even so that it looks like just a decorative edge. So up to you. I probably could have pried these loose, you know, and fixed it, but I already stuck it down. So sometimes it is what it is. But I did want to show you that you can unstick that. And it kind of helps it stand up on the card. So, like I said, up to you. If it bothers you, if that look bothers you, you can cover it. If you're like me and you think it's not that big of a deal, but you don't want it to stick, you don't want this to stick shut because then your card doesn't open, you can use your embossing buddy to take the stickiness away. So let's get to making a card because this technique does take a few minutes. And so do you guys want to do our storybook friends? And you can, like I said, you can do bigger die cuts and do bigger scenes and merge these things. It's up to you. I just kept mine kind of small. We don't have to do the Z-fold. We can just do it right onto a layer like this. So you don't have to do a fancy fold. Oh, thank you, Joan. This was a present from my friend, and it has a lid. So it's keeping my coffee warm and not spilling on my projects. So thank you. It was a gift from a sweet friend. So let's do some choosing here. Let's get busy and let's choose. Do we want to do some storybook friends? Or do we want to do a floral card? And I will say, like, I love stamp sets like this, and I like these images. If they don't have a die cut, you could cut around them and still do a partial. But when you have two dies that you're trying to work together, I just find it works a little bit better sometimes. You have the Storybook Friends paper. Oh, yeah. I love this. Let me bring that in because there might be more patterns that we want. I think I threw all my patterned paper in my scrapbooking kit. So this scrapbooking workshop kit, some of these things that coordinate with this suite of products is retiring. Like, I think it was, I'm trying to think what retired of this. Maybe the ribbon, or I don't recall right offhand, and I don't have it pulled up. But this, the timeless plaid and that kind of stuff is still here. So I didn't make these scrapbook pages, but I do have that paper, so we could use some of this paper instead of the timeless plaid. You know, this is one of my most favorite pieces. So this is one that I die cut. So you could easily use one of these and cut it. You can either do, like I said, the full card, which I don't know if anyone noticed. I put this straight to the edge so that it looked like a regular card front, and then you open it and it's actually a Z-fold. So you could make a Z-fold like that with one of these cottage papers instead. So, and if you, maybe you're doing a garden scene, because this does have, you know, the little carrots, and then you have this little bunny with a turnip or an onion, I think, or maybe it's a radish. So, or this one has, you know, the cabbage or the lettuce. So you could use some fun patterns in the background. So I'll pull this over too. As you can see, I have a lot of plaid. I'll have a lot of that plaid. I love it. Okay, so let's vote. I see a vote for Storybook Friends and a vote for Floral. I was going to say, I was going to try to abbreviate those, but so it's okay if you already voted. I got you in. So let's do 1 for Friends, 2 for Floral, just so it's easy to type it and get your vote in. So 1 for Friends, 2 for Floral. And then we'll decide which one we want to do. Which friend and which floral. And I'm going to take a little coffee break while you guys are voting. I'm going to just... Vicky, corner flower. Yeah. No, that definitely, I figured you would vote for that. I know how you love that. You make a lot of pretty cards like that. Good morning, Jan. Thanks for joining us. So if you said good morning, I missed you. I apologize. So let's see. I think we're kind of tied here. So I'm going to take a couple more sips, give a few more seconds for everyone to vote, because then I want to get busy, because like I said, this technique takes a minute. And if we're doing a friend, or I colored all of these with blends. So Stampin' Blends are the Stampin' Up! Alcohol markers, and they come in a set. So this one's Old Olive. So they come in a light and a dark of our core colors, except for Bronze and Ivory are together. And those are, the Ivory's kind of like very vanilla, but not quite. And then we have the Natural Tone blends, which are light, medium, medium deep, and deep. And those are a series of flesh tones, or like peachy colors and browns, and you can use them for hair and other things. I use them for lots of things. I love those sets, and those are not core colors, but they are Stampin' Up! Colors, and they're numbered. No, Vicky, I don't think you're that predictable, but I know how much you love florals. And I thought that you would like that rounded rectangle with the floral in the corner. You know, when we craft with someone for a long time, we just get to know them. You would probably say the same about me. So, and I love that. I love that I get to know you guys and know what you love and what you like. And sometimes I try to push myself. Like, I don't use this die very often. I love that it's elongated. And sometimes I think, oh, what am I going to use that for? So I just thought this was perfect because it creates my layer. And it has this fun shape, and I can pair it with my flower and my greetings at the bottom. And it's okay that we have some white space. So don't feel like you always have to fill everything up 100%. It's okay to have some white on there. Okay, I'm going to have to end up moving this. I already got hair in my coffee. Oh. So let's see. I think we're tied. Is anybody else watching that wants to vote? 1 for friends or 2 for floral? Let me see. Yeah, we're tied right now. Anybody want to be the tiebreaker? I don't want to choose because I love all of them. So, you know, like I said, I'm probably going to have to move my coffee really out of the way, especially when we're die cutting, but okay. Okay, there's our tiebreaker. So we're going to use our Storybook Friends. And don't worry, I may do some more of these because I really like doing this technique. Like I said, I kind of haven't done it for a while. And I love doing it with flowers because I like everything to be one layer so that I don't have, you know, I don't have that bump over here. So obviously if you wanted to have a layered look, that's okay. But sometimes I just want it to be all one layer. So I love this. And if you need wedding cards, wishing you love and happiness that lasts a lifetime is a really nice thing. You could always put, I'm sure we have somewhere like sending love, or I'm trying to think of some things. I know we have a bunch of stamp sets that just kind of went out the door, but they're still in my craft room. So I was trying just to kind of keep with some things that were more current. But I have some things on the way, but they're not here yet. But then on the inside, you could write, like I said, you could make a little pocket out of your designer series paper to put your money, gift card, check, whatever, in there. And you could write a sweet little note to the bride and groom. So I do love that. Ooh. Joan, you're going to change to flowers. So Linda suggested maybe I could do 1 full card and then just do the second one, just show the technique, just show the layer. Okay, let's see. If we get going and I have enough time, I will definitely do that. So I'm going to build a little bit, well, I want to use the wall, but I think I'm going to do a different character here. So I'm going to do this, and we don't have to do this Z fold. So maybe we'll pick one of those papers from the coordinating paper and put behind here. But I just need to pick which character. So there are some characters that are not holding anything, but then this one, and I'm not sure if, is that a badger? I think he's holding a flower. There's this, what is that, a porcupine? I don't know. I'd have to look at the paper. I'm not really good. I know these are bunnies. That's about as good as I get. But we have this little carrot patch here, which is cute. So you could do this. And remember, these are bigger. So on the front, they're shown at 75%. But as you can see, they're bigger. So like you could do this and then have your little character over here. So it doesn't have to be on this side. It could be either way. It depends on your character. So this guy's looks like he's walking this way. So you could do him hanging off the side on this side. So isn't he this little cute bunny wearing his little jacket? So the characters are bigger than they appear on the front. Here's the little girl. Again, she can be hanging off this side going through your little carrot patch. I do love this stone wall though. So I'm going to show you how I colored it. So I am going to use this just so I can show you how I did the ground and colored it. And we'll just have to decide which character we want. And this doesn't have to go the whole length. I matched it up to how I stamped my character and how I wanted it. And I can close that off. So don't worry about that this doesn't have a line stamp on the end. It's made so that you can continue this. You can stamp this over and over and kind of make a continuous fence. So let's see. Let me see what character we want. So I have this cute little guy with the radish. I think he would be cute. We could do the carrot patch. Do you guys want to decide? Oh, chipmunk. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, I can't really tell. It definitely doesn't look like a squirrel to me, but so let's get started, and I'm gonna just dig out some of my paper here, and I want to hear your ideas in the comments. So here's what some of those characters look like and how they're watercolored on the paper. Those are all bunnies. See, I just love this little guy. Now he's opposite. So, whoa, my stamps are. He's going this this direction on the stamps, but he's the other way on the paper. Just trying to see what's, oh, that's pretty. Strawberry paper. Yeah, I tucked everything in here. So this is, the scrapbooking kit is called Storybook Life, and I don't want to say 100%, but I think that it's on the last chance, but I could be wrong about that because there's a lot of things that got added that are mixed in, so I'll verify that in a second. So this is called Storybook Moments is the paper. I'm just trying to see. I kind of want those little houses. I love this piece. So this has the vegetables on the back, but I love this. And the paper comes with all those die cut characters, which are cute. So like I said, if you just want to put a character on a die cut, that's fine. But this technique kind of allows you to not have that layered look. Now we do have some of these. There's this little guy. So here's what this little guy from the stamp set. So I don't know if he's a chipmunk. I'm not sure what he's supposed to be, or badger. So, or no, this is a badger. No, maybe that is a chipmunk. So in the characters, you have a lot more animals. Okay, so there we have it. All right, so we just need to decide if we want we could do the carrots in this little, or we could do, yeah, we could still do the fence. We could do the fence over here and put him over here. So do we want the little, well, I'm assuming it's a boy bunny, but I suppose you could color it however you want. Doesn't have to be a boy bunny. So with this little bunny that has the little coat on, or this little bunny wearing a dress. So let's do A for the bunny in the dress, or B, the little bunny in the coat here. And we'll decide once we know which one we're doing how that fence is going to go. I just want to show you coloring the fence. But you can use either one. If you like it in the garden, do that one. I want to say the garden set is the one, the largest rabbit with the cabbage and the garden. So there's Vicky's vote. Which we can change it. We don't have to do what I just said. So whatever you guys want to do. I'm trying to look really quick which storybook things are going away so I don't tell you the wrong thing. Oh. So anytime that you're curious if something is leaving, you can go to the last chance category. So it looks like the ribbon is leaving, so you still have the garden tools that go with this and the Storybook Friends. Oh, this Storybook Life, the scrapbooking workshop kit, is in the last chance. So if you want this kit, which had lots of cute die cuts, and you can follow the directions and make the pages, or you can just do it however you want. You can change it up. So that is in the last chance. And also the stamp set that went with the scrapbooking, so it was called Storybook Life. It has a bunch of large words like Hello Spring, Easter Blessings, really hip hip hooray, which you could use for birthday or any celebration. That is also in the last chance. So, and then the ribbon from the bundle. So I'm sorry, not the bundle, the Sweet Collection. So the ribbon from this Sweet Collection, which is these two stamp set, or the stamp set, the vegetable stamp sets, and this one, that is retiring because they are retiring the ribbon that was part of it. But all those parts are part of that Sweet sale. So there you have it. Hopefully all that made sense. Now let me get back to my comments here. The blue tower. Oops. Look what I did. I picked up my stamps on the back of my paper bag. Be careful with your clear stamps. The blue, I'm trying to think, the blue tower, tower paper. I'm not sure which paper you mean, Joan. Flower. Okay. I'm sorry. I was like, what pattern? I'm missing something here. Okay, I got you. The blue flower paper. I'm pulling out some of my blue flower, blue flower. Do you mean this one with the strawberries? Or, and I might be missing some of the papers, or did you? So I was thinking the little cottages here. And then our and we don't have to use a square. You can use a circle if you want. I think you said yes to this. I think. I do like this pattern. I don't know. Well, we got to decide quick so I can show you the technique. So I was trying to see if I had any other ones. Okay, let's vote really quick. I think I know what Joan wanted, I think. Yes, okay. So let's vote really quick. Do we want to do a scene in front of the village houses? You know, I'm an English cottage person. If I could get one of those here, that's what I would have. Like this one. So let's do A is the village paper. B is this, I want to say it's like a Lost Lagoon watercolor. And I can't tell if it has green on it. My eyes just aren't working today, so I'm not sure if this little squiggly is green or not. Could be. But this, I think, is Lost Lagoon. So that might change our color scheme just a little bit of how we want to do our rabbits and our grass and everything. But we're going to just go with it. So let's do A is the village. B is this... it almost looks like vintage wallpaper to me. I love it though. I love this whole paper pack. So, and the paper pack, now not the paper pack with the stickers. That's the scrapbooking paper pack. But the regular designer series paper pack with these, and it has the characters in it. That is part of the buy one, get one 50% off. So if you want more of that paper, it's more expensive because it has the die cuts, but the second pack that you pick will be 50% off. So if you want to buy 2 packs of this paper and that's all that's on your order, one of them will be 50% off. So A, village, B, this. And let's just go ahead and do this. If we do this paper, we're going to do, I'm assuming, and like I said, you could make this a little girl bunny too. The boy bunny with the... I don't know, maybe it's an onion, whatever vegetable he's holding, okay? If we do this little vintage wallpaper-ish paper with these beautiful leaf diagonal pattern, we'll do our little girl bunny, okay? So, A and B. Let's vote on that really quick so I can show you this technique. I've got to grab some white paper anyways because I got to figure out where I put my... There it is. Okay. Nope. There. Okay. I'm going to show you how we start. So let's vote quickly, or I guess I'll just have to make an executive decision. But I do like you guys to vote so I can see what you want to pick. So you're in your craft room. What card do you want to make? And so all the characters have a coordinating die. And then this set comes with these cute little frames too. Hold on a second here. I'm just refreshing and going back in because my Facebook wasn't showing me all your answers, so I apologize for that. Okay, B. Looks like B. Looks like this one out. So I'm going to have to make some of these cards too. This is my favorite piece. I love this. I could almost just frame that piece and put it on my wall. Yeah, I love it that much. Okay, I'm just bringing in my trimmer here. So we're going to use this piece. Actually, I'm going to wait for my trimmer. We'll cut this down in a second because I don't know what card we're doing. So we're going to put this little guy away. I'm going to make a card with him though because he's super cute. And like I said, I think you can just, if you colored the jacket, you know, another color or made it have, you know, some rosy cheeks, it could be a girl bunny. So we're going to do our little fence. Again, you can do the garden if you want. And we're going to start off by mapping out how we want it to look. So I'm going to get a piece of white cardstock. Yes, I'm going to have to play with those, Vicki. I really need to check out the frames as well. Okay, I think this is a piece of thick basic white, but it works. So I just have, in my little stash here, I have all my pre-cut layers, plus I have bigger pieces of white. Okay, so whatever I need, I just jump in here. I've got square, I've got mini slimline. So I just grabbed a piece. I think this is thick, basic white. And I want to, the only thing that I have to make sure of is that my die will fit on it. Okay, so you don't want a full sheet, and you're going to see why when I pull in the cut and emboss machine. So if you don't want this big square, okay, I use the largest one on this one, then choose the next size down. Or if you don't want a square, choose the circle. You certainly could use a circle. Okay, so when you're choosing your sheet, you just have to make sure that you have enough room. So I'm actually going to be doing it this way. So it doesn't matter how you're going to put it on the card because the excess is going to be gone. So you could do a circle if you don't want the square. Okay, and you're just looking at, okay, here is my character, and I want it to hang off the edge of the other shape. Okay, so you're merging these two things. And like I said, if you don't want a big square, you can go down to the next size. It's whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. And this can go right to the corner. So this one I did up a little bit from the corner. This makes it a little harder cut. If you look really close at my card, you'll see that it does have a few boo-boos. I don't think they're that noticeable. But don't be afraid. If you get, you know, when you're cutting, you'll see what I mean. So what do we want to do here? But you're kind of going to map out, if I want this largest square, do I want her clear down here? Am I stamping this up here? Okay, I'm not going to stamp this yet. So, and like I said, this doesn't have to go all the way on the page. If you want this up here so it has more of a dimension, like she's way in front of the fence, not beside it, you can choose all of those things, okay? I'm just trying to think, do I want the largest square? Let's just do the largest because that's what I did on the other one. Again, if you want a circle, change it to a circle. But I'm just looking at how I would lay it out, okay? And then I'm going to stamp my little character here. And this is what I do. So you're going to need a pencil. I do trace the outside. Now I am going to warn you, this has stitching on the inside and the outside. So I want to be weary that this is not cutting all the way to this line, but that's okay. This is just a guide. We're just mapping out where we want it. Oops. And I'm just tracing along the edge. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I want to know I have, you know, I don't want to accidentally stamp my bunny here and then I have nothing to die cut my square from. Okay, so I'm just tracing that. We're going to erase it. It's not going to show up anymore. Now I'm going to stamp my little bunny so I can say, oh, I want it toward the corner like this. And remember, it's going to be right here. Okay, there's a little bit of a space there. I haven't measured it. It's probably like maybe 1/16 of an inch. Okay, but I'm just getting this down toward the corner, and it can hang all the way off if you want it to. Okay, it can come all the way off of your square. You just need to know that before you trace it. Okay, so you have enough paper. So I'm gonna put it about like that. Now, when you do flowers, if the die cut cuts out pieces that are along here, you may have some things that you wouldn't necessarily notice. So when I did this, I wish I had traced this whole way so that I could see where to cut this, because this didn't cut all the way. This die cuts all the way in here. And so even though I'm not going to use a die right here, I wish I had traced it so I knew where to stop with my plate. And I'm going to show you, because you're not going to die cut everything so your plate doesn't cover everything. Is that making sense? I hope I'm making sense. It'll make more sense when I start cutting, but this is just my planning, and you have to plan or you won't know where to put your plate. So I'm stamping in basic gray. You can do whatever color you want. You can use Memento Black. If you're using like watercolor pencils or colored pencils, or even the Stampin' Write markers, you can use the other inks. You could use the Memento, but I'm using basic gray. And I'm using that pencil line to just kind of guide where I'm putting my little bunny here. So see that pencil line? We're going to erase it. Don't worry about that line. If you want to color it with blends now, you want to erase it. I'm going to go ahead and cut and do the die cutting and then color, which is opposite of what I normally do, but that's how I'm going to do it today. So I need this die, that die that we traced. Let me get some things out of my way here. And then I need to find the die that goes with my little rabbit here. And I haven't traced these. Normally I trace around these, but I've been converting and putting a magnet sheet on these, so I hadn't traced these yet. And then we need this little die. Okay, now I'm going to move my coffee because I certainly do not want to shake it all over my workspace. And I'm going to bring in my machine here and show you the magic. And I'm also going to move all of these things so we have some space here. Okay, I don't need all of those. Okay, and I'm actually going to move that. So hopefully the glare doesn't get us. Just moving that for a second to bring this in. Okay, there we go. Sorry, that was a lot of moving. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, and I might have to turn this a little bit because it'll be hard for me to see going this direction, but I'm going to do my best, you guys. I'm going to line this up, okay? And the reason why I want a smaller piece is this has to be able to move, because when I cut, wherever this is, okay, so see this line? We don't want to cut this direction. So our plate is going to go over here. And some plates, see how this has like a beveled edge? Some plates, it die cuts clear to this edge, and some it's this. So I think this one, it's on honestly, I just kind of play with it each time. But you're only going to cut up to that line, or maybe just beyond or right on. We can adjust it as we go. So I'm going to turn this way. Oops, sorry, hit my camera. I do have some Post-it note tape, okay? Or you can use any low-tack tape. And I'm just showing you what I'm doing. I'm lining this up, and then I'm going to tape this down because I don't want this to move. I want to make sure it's not moving, and you don't want to tape it to your bottom plate because you want to be able to turn this and move it so that you can get your cuts right up to the line. So like on my flower, I had to change my paper so it was cutting this way because I had some things that overlapped weird. So hopefully that makes sense. Good morning, Anne. That's okay. If you texted me, I have my notification shut off right now, so. I don't know why, but Facebook's doing that thing where I can't see all the comments again. So I'll just keep refreshing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I don't want to cut this direction, so I'm going to turn this because this plate is going to hang off, okay? And I'm going to line this up so that it cuts right along that line. Now I'll have something down here that I'll have to adjust. That's where what I mean by sometimes we have to do this a couple times and go back and forth, and you'll see what I mean as I start cutting. So if something doesn't make sense, ask me. So I'm using that pencil line as a guide, and I have the edge of my plate. This part that is not under the plate is not going to cut. So just be careful. Your plate can go flying because there's a lot of pressure on the end of it. So sometimes mine kicks out. I just hang on to it. So if I turn this over, you can see it only cut where I had that plate. So don't do it the opposite way. I've done accidents like that. And you'll see it cut pretty close. So this die is going to come off. I'm just going to toss it down into my pack. I'll put it back together later. So see, I have a partial die cut there. Now I want this square to die cut, and I'm using that pencil mark as a guide for the outside of my square here. But know that it's going to cut a little more here. Don't worry about if these don't meet up just yet. So I want this to line up. I do not want it to cut anywhere that I have my bunny. So see, we didn't cut the feet all the way just yet. We'll get to that part. Right now, we're going to do the square, and then if we have to go back and tidy up a cut, we will. So if hopefully that makes sense. I did get new plates, Joan. Actually, I'll tell you a little tip what I do. These plates come in sets of 2. So when you first get, I already got tape on this one, so now it's not very clean, but that's okay. When you first get your cut and emboss machine, you get 2 of these number 3 plates. That's your clear plates. And then you can buy replacement plates as they get scarred up. They are going to get scarred. So this one was my top plate. And when I start replacing my plates, I use only one plate on the top. And as I cut, I flip it so that they don't warp. But I only use one plate on the top. I never put it on the bottom. And then as this plate gets so cut up that it's not cutting well, or sometimes colored cardstock will get down into the cut grooves, This plate's going to get all cut up and nasty. Let me show you one, just so that if you're new to this, you don't get freaked out. So here's my plate that I just replaced, and you can see it's all cut up. Actually, it has a piece of paper stuck in it. And I flip this. So the bottom one gets flipped. I'll do so many cuts, then I flip it over and I cut on this side. And this is still usable. I just switched for the video so you could see better, because this, it makes it a little hard to see. But then when I pull out a new one, I only pull one from my pack and it goes on the top. So my top plate becomes my bottom plate because it does get marked. It doesn't get cut into, but it does have some marks where it goes through in the top of the die. Look, there's a snowflake dies I used on my scrapbooking layout. It does have a little bit of an impression, but it's not cutting into your plate. So I take the top plate and I put it on the bottom, and now I have a fresh, clean plate for the top, and it helps my plates last a little longer, and I don't have to replace them as often. So there's a little tip for you to help you save your plates a little bit. And like I said, I use a lot of tape, so a lot of times I get a little tape residue mess here. Well, tell sweet Molly I said hi. I love her too. All right, so this plate, again, I'm going to stuff it through here, and I'm going to finagle this so that and can you guys see what I'm doing? Okay, I wanted to make sure I wasn't off camera here. I'm angling my paper. I don't want to cut where these feet are. And I want to make sure that this lines up. I think I'm off a little bit. Let me untape that. I want to make sure that this lines up here, but I don't want to cut these feet. So when I cut, my die needs to be straight, but my plate can be angled. And how I do that is angling my paper. So that's why I want a manageable size. Tape that a little bit closer so it doesn't move. I don't want my die to move. So I can angle my paper like this. My plates have to be straight, and I'm going to line that edge up right where it intersects here. Can you guys see that? But I don't want to cut those feet off, so I'm going to angle it. I'm going to pull it out a little bit and give myself a little room over here, because I'm going to bring this die back in and do those feet. Okay, so I want it to intersect here with the top of the head. I don't want it to cut into the head. So I've got to be careful because this part of the die is under it. So I'm just going to keep angling this. Okay, so that I don't want to cut into the ears. Actually, I'm gonna pull that out a little bit, just so I can see where it cuts. So start off slow. I pulled it out because I thought, I'm not sure how that ear fits onto this just yet. So I'm going to pull it out so that it's going this direction, or you can even do it like that, okay? And we'll just keep adjusting it. So like I said, this is a fun technique, but you want to take your time. You want to take your time. So you can see if I turn it over, I'm nowhere near this, but I wanted to see, and I'm just going to lift this tape a little bit gently. I want to see how far this is going to cut, so you can kind of judge to about right here. So I know if I cut this, it's not going to cut the little bunny's ear off. Tape it back down and just keep adjusting. So I'm going to get a little closer here. My plates. Oops, sorry. I know it's shaking my camera. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm getting closer. I think that's about where I want it, or close to it, maybe a little bit more. So I'm just going to keep edging to where I want to go. And this is how I do it. If you're brave, sometimes I just put it there and I go with it. And I say it's okay. If it cuts a little further than I want, that's all right. You're probably not going to notice as much as you think you would. So the bottom's good. I need a little bit further. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the direction of this. There we go. And I'm going to go across this way. This is what I mean by your paper needs to be able to move around so that you can cut it different, because I don't want to get any closer to that. So I don't want to try to angle it again, but I do want this down closer like that. All right, and I think we should be good, and then we can do the feet. And I am going to color it quickly. I'm not going to do a ton of blending today. So you can see I got it almost all the way down. Now I'm going to bring my character die back in. Just carefully lift that up because you don't want to tear your paper. So that's why I said you want to use like a low tack tape. I buy this Post-it tape. It comes in a roll. I get it from Amazon. And I like it to hold my dies in place. Now, you can use your scissors to cut around this. You don't have to bring the die back in. But if you want to, you can. And it fits right back in. So it's going to fit right back in there where I had cut before. And I'm just going to go this direction. And I want it to cut right up to that line for my square. So it's just cutting a little bit. This is when you might have an issue with your plate. Like I said, I just hang on to it. So you can look on the back. I needed a little bit more. I'm just going to use my scissors. Okay, I don't want to get too close. So we'll just use our scissors for the rest. And I do stick my tape just on the side. I do. I love Post-it tape. I buy several rolls at a time. So, okay, let me bring this in so we have no glare. So I have this piece that's ready to go. I'm just going to use my scissors here. And you could keep playing if you want the die to do all the work. You could keep playing back and forth. But I'm just going to cut this out like this. And then I'll trim it up. So I'm going to come around the foot here. And I'm just going to meet up with that. And same with this. There's just a little spot here that didn't cut all the way. And I can kind of tell where my die was going to go. And I just clean it up a little bit. Now we're ready to erase our pencil lines. You can save this piece of scrap, okay, if you want this. These make great little stamping on words. Depends on how much scrap you like to keep. So I use, let me find my eraser here. used to use washi tape. You can use washi tape. You just have to be really careful. And you might put it on like your shirt or something and take some of the tack off so it's just not as sticky. So this pencil line was cut off, but the one going through my little character here didn't. So I use a high polymer eraser. It really does well on cardstock. You can get these at like Walmart, or I'm sure they're on Amazon too. I just buy them in big packs. Okay, so there is our little partial die cut. We need to, so let me figure out where I put my stamp set. We need to stamp our, okay. We need to stamp our little fence here. I'm going to bring back in my basic gray. And remember, these are photopolymer. So if you don't have the glass mat or a good stamping surface for these, you will need your little pierce mat. So I'm going to stamp this maybe about here, coming off the side. And this is why I kind of stamp this later, because I don't want to stamp that and then get confused where I want my square. So this is just my method. You could stamp everything and then die cut around it. I'm going to leave this little bunny white. So on the other one, I did more of some browns. So when I do that, I like to just bring in either smoky slate. This is crumb cake. I want gray granite. I'm using dark and light gray granite. And I'm just going to do some little flicks here and there. And this is the light. I might not even use the dark. So I'm just doing some little lines. I'm not trying to fill it all the way in. So you could have a little gray bunny, or you could have it more white. Depends on how many strokes you put in there. I think she's going to end up a little more gray, but that's okay. And let's see. On my flowers, I used Calypso Coral. So let's bring in our paper, because if you're trying to make a card, you might want to pick a color that you feel goes well with this. So for my grass, on the original one, I used Old Olive and Mossy Meadow. But on this one, I am going to pull my Lost Lagoon. So I'm going to do my grass in the Lost Lagoon because I want it to match a little bit with this paper. Just making sure I see comments. So I'm trying to think what dress color I want, and I do like Calypso Coral with this. So I think I might do that. Let's just do that. So I have light Calypso Coral out, and I'm just going to color in her whole dress. I'm not doing any blending on it, really. I might bring in the dark and just do a little tiny bit. Calypso Coral, the light and the dark are fairly different, but that's okay. They're a little bit wide. Some of the lights and darks aren't as noticeable, but this one certainly is. So I'm just gonna add a few dark spots and I'll go back over those. We'll make her a little and then I'm just gonna smooth those out a little bit and blend them in. Again, probably not realism, but she's still cute. Now, you can use, this is the Natural Tones 1000. It's a very pinky color. Oops, sorry, hit my camera again. This I used for the inside of the ear and the little nose, okay? And there's only one ear showing on this one. And then I just kind of use my color lifter to help smooth the edge. So there's our little girl bunny. She's all done. Oh, you can also use this if you want her to have a little bit of a rosy cheek, like right here. You can do a rosy cheek there. Isn't she cute? Now, to do my fence, I did a bunch of browns. Let me bring that in. And I like this look. So I'm going to show you how I did that. And I'm instead of Old Olive and Mossy Meadow here, I'm going to use that Lost Lagoon, because it does go better with this paper, I think, than this green. So you can use what you want. It's certainly your preference, whatever your preference is. So for the fence, I used a few colors. I used the Natural Tones 200, which is in the deep. I used the Natural Tones 500 and 600. That's the medium, okay? And then I also brought in, I used the Gray Granite, light and dark, and I used some Crumb Cake, light and dark. Let's see, somewhere, there it is. And then I have Ivory, and the Ivory is part of the Bronze Ivory combo. And I'm just gonna put dots on there and color this in. So let me get going on that. It does take a minute. I start with my darkest color. Now, if you're wondering about that, you're just going to use a Stampin' Write marker, or you could even just shade it with your blend. Oops. And I'm gonna kind of just draw in an edge there. I'm not worried about if it's perfect. I just matched the color. So I have the Stampin' Write markers that match these colors. They come in color families, and that's what I used. If you don't have them, you could use a Sharpie. It's okay. Whatever you want. So this is the darkest color, the 200, and I'm just adding dots in. And it doesn't have to be on every single one. Some of them can be darker and heavier, and some of them can be lighter. But I'm just going along the bottom and up each rock. Don't color your greenery. 500 is the next darkest. So the Natural Tones blends, the 1000, that pinky color, it's in the light. That is the lightest color. And it goes up to 100. So they are in increments of 100. So 1000 and 900 are together. And that's how they're, so the 200 is on the darker end. I'm going to come in with this 500, and it's a little bit different brown. I like to call it a caramely color. I love it. It's one of my favorites. So I'm just, like I said, adding some dots. You know, when you see these rocks and stones, they're not perfect. They have irregular lines, and that's kind of what I want to do here. And I'm going over where I put the dark and then out beyond it. Again, it's not perfect. You don't have to have perfect. Hey, Dad, good morning. Now I'm going in with that 600. And I'm just adding it in. It's just a little color variation. I like it. It has, it's kind of an orangey brown. So it's 600's the color where it starts transitioning to more of the pinky colors. And so I really like this one. Then you can do gray granite or crumb cake. It depends. I liked a little bit of crumb cake just to add in a little bit of a lighter brown. So again, I just, wrong tip, wrong end. I'm using the bullet tip end and I'm just doing a little bit of gray. So that dark gray, I'm just popping some dots in here or there. That was gray granite. Now I'm going to use the light. So we're just layering that color. And don't forget your rocks that are going to hang off the edge here. Now you can do the crumb cake. Again, you don't have to use all these colors. This is my preference. And I'm just dotting it here and there. The ivory adds a nice lightness to it. So this is the ivory. I'm going to do that before I do the light crumb cake. And oh, that tip's done. I'm just going over top of all of the rocks and kind of blending all of those dots. And see how it has that yellowy color? This is why I come back in with the light crumb cake. It kind of tones it down, but I do like these colors layered. So I know I'm far away coloring because I had the camera so high. So I did a bunch of those dots. Now I'm coming in with that lighter color and adding that to the rocks. But I like to tone it down a little bit with the crumb cake. So now I'm coming back in with the crumb cake. And I'm just dotting over that to tone down a little bit of the yellow. Add some more brown back in. And depending on how much you do it is how much your dotting kind of blends out. So if you like that look where it looks more dotted, go back in with some of your darker colors and add in some more details. Just play with it. Enjoy that process. Have some fun with it. And don't overthink it. Because when it dries, it looks really pretty. They just look like natural stones. So I just went back with my two darkest colors and added in some more dots. So that's kind of my technique. It comes out different every single time. That's just, I just like the process. Sometimes it, so as it dries, it's going to look like that. And like I said, if you want more dots, just go back in and add some. And as it's drying, those will blend a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to do Lost Lagoon, and I'm going to start with my dark. And I'm going to dot around my fence here along the bottom. And even up into it. You can go up onto the rocks. And in my little bush here. I'm just doing some little dots out here. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. Maybe some up here. Just bringing in some of that green. We want it to look like there's a little grass beyond it because we have the end of the fence here. Okay, so that was the dark. Now I'm going to use the light, and I'm just going to color all the way up to my bunny. I might bring in a third color here, because this is very dark. And this is why I love the blends, because I can color this edge here. And it's going to dry nice and smooth. I'm thinking. I might bring in, I'm bringing in my dark soft sea foam here. And I'm going over the whole thing. I want it to lighten a little bit. And you can barely see it, but it is going to mix with that color a little bit. So don't be afraid to experiment with your blends and have some fun with it. So that was dark soft sea foam. It works well with that color. There we go. Now we just need to stamp our sky and make our greeting. So here's what it's going to look like on top of that. So this blends in a little nicer with this. And I'm not sure if that might be some balmy blue in there. But we're going to bring in some blue. So to stamp the cloud that I got over here, I used my Scenic Adventure die, or not die, stamp set, sorry. So I brought this in because I wanted this little line cloud. So we're going to do that again. And if you wanted, you could mask this. You could create a little mask and stamp you a little tree in the background here. Okay. If you wanted, so you could have your little cloud and you could stamp a little tree back there and give your scene a little bit of depth. So don't be afraid to mix your stamp sets. Okay. That could be cute. And you could stamp it in Lost Lagoon so that it matches that. But I'm just going to have a little piece of this cloud here. And this is a large cloud. So I just want a little piece of it. So I did a little more in here. I'm just going to do a little piece on that edge there. Thank you, Vicki. And I'm going to bring in a scrap piece here. I stamped off. So I inked it in basic gray. I'm going to stamp off. And then stamp my little cloud up here. So if you wanted some of these lines, you could ink the other side, stamp off, and then maybe do some lines back there just to give it some interest in the sky. You could use whatever stamp sets you have, okay? Whatever you have that fits your theme. My character's line art, this is line art, so I wanted something that had a little bit of line art to it. Now, I'm going to use the light balmy blue. You could use Pool Party. Let me check something really quick here. This paper pack has a ton of colors in it. And it says it has boho blue, so that might be more boho. But if you have the boho blends, that's really dark. those can be kind of dark and hard to use for sky. So I'm just going to use my Balmy Blue. And I'm just going to, and mine's going dry, so it's not as juicy. So I'm just putting some color here around my cloud. And I'm just trying to do a circle motion, whatever. If you want to do flicks, if you like that, I'm going around my fence. And kind of into that cloud a little bit. So you can do circles, whatever edge you like. And I'm just trying to add a little blue in there. And if you have a juicy blend, it's gonna maybe come out a little different than mine. I'm not trying to color all the white in. So hopefully you can see that. Now what I'm gonna do, because I want those edges to be very soft, is I have a color lifter here, and I'm just gonna go along the edges with it, and you can go over where they overlap. So if you want it to be really light, you can go over the whole thing, you can go over just the edge, whatever you're looking for. And the best thing about blends is you can, if you push this through, this doesn't lift it, it pushes it through your paper. So if you push too much through, you can add some more color on and do it again. Not a big deal. I like to go over the whole thing. I want it to be very light and subtle. So I like to push a lot of it through. Again, that's your preference. So then we're going to cut this, and our little image is going to go on top. And I want to stamp something here. I'm going to let this dry for a second because I put the color lifter on, which is just, this is just alcohol solution with no ink in it or no dye color in it. And it has to dry for a second. So I'm going to put this to the side, and we're going to cut this down, and we're going to pick our base, and then we're going to stamp our greeting, and we're all good. Our card is all done. So, do we want to do a Z fold, or do we want to do a regular card? Do you guys want to decide, or you just want me to do it? And I'm going to use a white card base. Aw, thank you guys. You're super sweet. So I'm going to put this over here. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to score it at 4 1/4 on the 8.5 inch side. And I like to just make 2 bases at once. I'll save one for later. I turn it, and on the 11 inch side, we're cutting at 5 1/2. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 5 1/4. By 4 inches. So again, if you want to make a pocket on the inside, you can save this piece. And this one it doesn't matter which direction the pattern is, because it would look good on the inside no matter which direction it's going. So you could use that for a little pocket. I see 2 votes for a Z fold and a vote for a regular. So this is a regular card. The front is not moving. There we go. Isn't she cute? I just love it. And then a Z fold, we're going to cut this in half, and this part folds back on itself. And then we'll cut our paper will be cut in half, and we'll adhere it just like it's a card front, but this moves. I think Z-fold has one out. So let me tell you, when I do a Z-fold, I like to score, especially if you're using this thick paper. So this side should be 4 1/4. So in order to score it, I'm going to go to 2 1/8. So that's a 2, and then that first line's a 16th, and then the next one's 1/8. So I'm going to line up to that 1/8 line, and I'm going to score. And I like scoring these because it is just easier to get it to fold nice and neat. This piece, I'm just going to cut in half. So this is a 4-inch piece. I'm going to cut it at 2 and adhere it on the front. So if you don't want to do a fancy fold, just leave it as is and adhere it to the front. So when you score, the score line indents, and then there's the bumpy side, the bump on the other side. That goes on the inside of your card. Use my bone folder if I can find it. I literally just had it. There it is. And then this piece folds back. So I know it doesn't necessarily follow the rule because the bump is not going to be on the inside, but that's okay. It's the fun fold part. And because I cut this, there's a little edge here. I just use my bone folder to smooth that out. And you want to make sure you crease this really well. I do recommend having a bone folder, especially if you're using thick paper, like this thick white. So on this other one, I used regular basic white. But this is thicker, and so it makes a little nicer base. These get adhered down, and then we'll stamp our greeting, and our card's good to go. So you don't need a ton of glue on your paper. So remember, I want this, these line up. So these line up like that. So this is going to get glued here. This is going to get glued here, but I'm adhering it all the way to the edge so it looks like one piece. You can leave a white border if you want. If you do that, you'll want to cut your size different. You don't want to cut it exactly in half. You'll want to cut this to, I think it's like 1 7/8 or something like that. If you want that white border. I don't want the white border. I want this to meet up, and I'm just making sure it's straight and not hanging over. But I want this to meet up like this on the front of my card. So you can do it either way. And you're just going to use a little tiny adhesive or liquid glue. Or you can use the Stampin' Seal. But I prefer the liquid glue so that I have a little time to move it around if I need to. So there we go. Now we're going to stamp this, and I think I'm going to do just a note, just for something a little different. I'm going to get my new favorite stamp set out here. You guys know I love Just a Note. And I'm going to stamp that in basic gray. If you have a stamp positioner, feel free to grab that if you're nervous to just stamp on your piece, but I'm just going to go with it. And I want to put it, I'm going to put it just above that fence piece. Having a hard time seeing, sorry, because of my phone. So just take your time. And let's see, I'm going to put dimensionals. So I want it to go like this. So I'm just making a mental note. I don't want to go past here. So about 2 fingers. I'm just going to be really careful. I might have it over too far. We'll adjust it. It'll be all right. And I'm trying to do a line down here. You could just do one on the top and one on the bottom. Have less chance of messing it up. And I want my little character here that's going to be fully on the page. And if you have a spot where you need to fill it in, your little mini can fit into some spaces as well. Okay, good enough, right? So like I said, I might have got that top one over a little bit. We'll just adjust it. Okay, I got all of them. Okay, so I want this to go like that. And I'm lining up this edge. This edge is really hard because it has, you know, the character line over there. So I'm trying to line this edge up. Oops, I got it a little crooked. Pull it back up a little bit. So I'm going to turn it sideways here, and I'm going to line this up with the edge of my papers. Hopefully I think I still got it. I think I still got it crooked. Sometimes when I have the light right there, it's hard for me to see. All right. So look, I did a good job. None of them are hanging over this time. So there we have it. There's our little Z fold card. Isn't it cute? So if you know somebody loves these little bunny characters, they remind you of the Peter Rabbit, then you can send them a little note, a little pick-me-up, or a happy birthday, or whatever you want it to be. Again, I use Beautiful Motifs, Scenic Adventures, and the Storybook Friends. Now, Scenic Adventures is not part of the sale, but I think this is a great addition. And the dies are all standalone dies, and they work well with this. Lots of outdoorsy things. So this is probably my new favorite greetings. The only thing I don't have is a happy birthday, and we have plenty of those in other sets. So there's that one. Now I'm going to quickly show you how to do the flower die cut with the thing. And I'm going to be really quick about it, but I'm not going to finish the card. So let me bring in another piece of white paper, and I'll do this really quickly. Thank you. So again, you don't need a full sheet of white. I'm just picking up a scrap I had in there. And I'll use this rounded rectangle. You could even, let's see, what was I going to say? You could create layers with paper, but let's not get complicated. Let's keep it simple, keep it simple. So I know I want this to go here, and I want this to hang off. So again, if you have to adjust this, you want to know where your stamp's going to fit on your little scrap piece. So I'm going to do this like this, where it's barely hanging off. And I'm going to trace this up here. Thank you. Move this up a little bit. Oop. Make sure your die, hold your die down, and I'm just taking a pencil around it so that I can line it back up. Now, I do have previous videos on this. My goodness. Well, you get the idea. It's going to be gone anyways. And sometimes I traced both dies because I want to see where it intersects. I just find that this way works well too, and it kind of eliminates tracing both dies, because what I'm really worried about is fitting this in there. So I guess if you were doing 2 images, it would be a good idea to trace both dies. But I just want to worry about the flower. I don't know. We're going to go about right there. So there's my flower. Now I'm going to grab both the dies. Let me bring back in my machine, and I'll cut this quickly. You don't need as much instruction this time, right? So you know what I'm doing. So I'm going to lay this down, and I want to cut my flower first. Again, the order that you do this in is kind of your preference. So I'm just going to grab out the coordinating die. This one doesn't cut any of those flower pieces out in the middle. So the big one has some pieces that cut out in the middle. So just take your time, line it up. And I want it to stay where I put it. So again, I want it to cut to here where it intersects and to here. So I'm going to angle it and cut. Oh my gosh, I just cut it on the wrong side. Good thing it didn't cut. No, I don't want to do it that way. I want to cut it this way. I want this side to cut. So luckily it cut a little bit, but it'll be okay. Glad it didn't cut all the way. I'm glad I messed it up. See, even I make mistakes. Okay, I want this side to cut. So this side goes under the plate. Let me redo that. Reverse, back up. I almost did it the wrong way. That's okay. Mistakes happen. It's a piece of paper. I would just stamp it again and start over. Not a big deal. Sometimes my brain doesn't work the way I want it to. Oh, shoot. It cut all the way through. All right. I accidentally had it too far. Let me see if it'll... Actually, it made an... Nah, it cut. Well, that one cut. That was an accident. Let me try again. Bear with me, guys. Every once in a while. All right, let me just grab a new scrap here. No big deal. I'll still use that. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Life happens. I think it's because I'm trying to hurry. So I know that this was down here in this corner. And I might not have it perfect, but that's okay. And I know I want this to go like that. So let me trace this really quick. Okay, good enough, good enough. Okay, redo. How many of you are going, oh my gosh, that's what I would have done? Well, look, we're all human. So let me put this the right way this time. And I do confuse myself. I did that even when I was making the other ones. Luckily, I usually stop myself and say, oh, wait, that is not the correct way. Every once in a while, I don't. So, okay. There we go. Okay, let's try this one again. So I want to angle this. I do not want this edge. And I have to be careful because I taped over this, so it's hard for me to see that edge. So I'm going to cut this like this. And that's what happened is this edge comes in a little bit, hard to see under my tape. But I'm going to do this side first, and then I'll run it back through. So see, I cut that side. I don't want this to cut, so I'm going to angle it this way so that I don't get that piece that I didn't want to cut. I want it to be one piece. A little bit of planning. So see, I'm missing that area right there. Hey, we all do it. All right, that's good enough for this die right now. Just be careful pulling your tape off. And the reason why this looks so dirty, if you can see my dirty cut and emboss machine, it's because I put my tape on there. And it kind of gives it a little bit of a dirty look. Okay, so now I've got my partial die cut on the correct side. I'm going to bring in that rounded rectangle. And again, that's from those Nested Essential dies. And I'm just lining that up. I know it's not going to cut exact because that's the outside edge, which is not where the cutting edge is, but that's okay. It's going to help me line it up. Now I do have it the right way. I want this side to cut, and I'm going to get it pretty close. So when you do it on the corner, it's sometimes a little easier to not have to keep going back and forth. So I still am going to look. I still want to get it a little closer. Let's see if I can. I don't know if I'm getting in the frame here. It's hard to do. So I'm going to put it a little closer. Oops. And it's close enough. I'll trim it with my scissors. So sometimes I get it too close and I have a little extra cut on there. Don't know if you could tell, I did it on my first bunny card. But once you kind of color it and put it on, I think it's less noticeable. So there we have it. There's our partial die cut. Use your, oop, don't throw your scissors. Sorry, everyone. Use your scissors to trim that. And if it's kind of a hard spot to trim, I just cut this off so that I can get to the piece I want to get to. There we go. And you can kind of see my dots went into that. That's why I said sometimes you might get it a little too far. You're really not going to notice once you're done. I'm going to come in with my... You're welcome. Yes, live crafting, Joan. Story of my life, even when I'm not live. So, like I said, if you have something that cuts like out into here, sometimes like I did on this one, you have to be careful. And yes, I put it in the wrong way, but it didn't cut through completely on the first time, only this little piece cut. But when I angled my plate, it accidentally caught that die that dipped back down in, and I didn't notice. So will I still cut this and use this as a one piece? Yep, because when I glue it, you're not going to notice a whole lot of that right there. It still matches up. It'll be okay when you adhere it down, but this definitely looks better. And I like the look of one layer. That's the point of doing the partial die cut. You can also do a partial die cut if you want just the edge. So I made some file tabs with this when I did my winter layout, and I didn't want this whole piece. So I just used a scrap piece of paper and hung the die off, and this edge was straight because I was tucking it. So that's also a partial die cut. But this is a technique where you're merging two things. So hopefully that makes sense. It's a little more advanced, but it's really fun. And I think if you're willing to try it, it just takes a little planning. And sometimes you'll cut it the wrong way, like I did, and it'll be okay. So there we have it. Let me bring in our cards. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I don't know what I'm gonna do with that. I'm gonna make a pretty card with it. So here's my original, my little bunny Z-fold. Here's our little girl bunny. Isn't that cute? And then here's one I made with the bigger floral from that Gallery Blooms. And the, am I saying hexagon? Is that the correct shape I'm saying? It's like an elongated hexagon. And I merged those to make a little wedding card. So, pretty, pretty. It is how we learn, Joan. If you don't make mistakes, you're not going to learn. That's true. And I don't know about y'all, but in crafting, I definitely have my fair share. That's okay. It's paper. I know sometimes it's frustrating. That's why I don't color. I don't do anything until I've cut my shape, because I can mess it up. And if I've just stamped a little bit, no big deal. But if you've put a lot of time into the coloring, you're going to be a little angrier with yourself if you mess up your layering of your die cuts. So don't fret over it. It's really just kind of let go and have fun and experiment and enjoy the process. So thank you all. If you have any questions, feel free to tag me. I'm happy to help you figure out what you need or how to make it happen. Like I said, you can get really complicated with these. I try to keep it pretty simple and not make a headache for myself. Thanks, Vicki. Yep. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you, Joan. Yes, happy Father's Day here in the U.S. to all the dads or father figures. And everyone take care and have a great weekend. Thank you, Maggie. I hope everyone gives this a try, and I will see you soon. Take care.